Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Gina Cotner. Say hi.
Hey there.
It was so hard for me not to introduce you as Gina after you brought up the whole 40-year-old. Oh, you guys, you don't hear the pre-recording conversations. And for that, I'm so grateful because sometimes they get a little interesting, but that one was fun. I'm almost sad that we weren't recording. Anyway, tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Athena Executive Services, and we're part of the vast virtual assistant world, which is just huge, wild, wild west, wide open, unregulated, crazy world right now. And we're in a particular niche of that world, and we provide executive virtual assistants. So I have a higher caliber, higher cut of a virtual assistant. They're scattered all around the United States, and they work part-time from home for business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, people that we've vetted and screened. That's kind of the high level of it.
That's such important work because I know when I first started my business, at least, I was under the delusion. And yes, let's call it what it is, the delusion that I could be a one-woman show. And I'm so grateful that I met she has since graduated to helping people with operations, but my long-term virtual assistant was a woman named Ashley Berghoff, who was so amazing at just pulling things out of my head and then assigning me things to do and then doing the rest of it herself. I felt like I needed to be managed in my own business, but having somebody that can do that is incredible. So what got you started in this business? Like what brought you down this path?
Yeah, well, it wasn't, I think like all of us, it wasn't on the path, or I didn't think it was on the path. I started myself as an executive assistant. That alone was not on the path. I went to a lot of private school and private colleges and I don't know, there I was about 40 years old. And I told my mom, I'm going to be an executive assistant. And she was like, oh, dear Lord, why? What happened to you?
All right. I love you, Mom, but there's nothing wrong with that. But continue.
That's right. Yeah. Well, what prompted it, oddly enough, was, it's funny. It's like everything led to this. Right. And in hindsight, standing in 2023, it's like, oh, well, I got this degree and I had this job and I met this person and then this thing and then this thing. So it's always like everything led to this. But I think kind of what like the turning point was I was in the middle of a divorce. It wasn't a particularly ugly divorce or anything like that. And we're still friends. But I had left him the house and the mortgage wasn't getting paid. And I had moved. I had one of those highlights in life where you move into your mom's basement when you're 40, which is really exciting. And so there I was for 3 months. And then I get a little studio apartment in the heart of Seattle, like just right smack in the heart of Seattle. And I start getting notices in the mail that literally were pink and yellow. Like I had heard of these or seen them in movies, but I didn't know this actually existed. And you open them up and they basically tell you got this many days before your house is going to be foreclosed on.
Wow.
And I just got freaked out. I was an entrepreneur. I was in different business partnerships, small business, solopreneur, or one person, as my partner. And I was kind of just eking it by, and I was way too scared and stressed in what I was dealing with. And I just was like, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur anymore. This is it. I need a job. I need a job. I need to get dressed, go to somebody's office, provide some kind of service, come home, have some money show up in my bank account. And that's all I want. And it better be fairly easy.
Yes.
And I saw out on one of my Facebook groups, somebody I knew who was a CEO of a small firm saying, hey, I'm looking for an executive assistant. And I thought, I could do that. I think I could do that.
Yeah.
I know her. And I think I have those skills. And okay. So I did. and I became her EA for a while, for a few years. And then about 3 or 4 months into that gig, she sold the office space, or we got out of the office lease, and we were all working from home way before everybody was forced to work from home. And I loved it. I was an executive assistant. I'm working from home. I'm I'm loving it. And it's like 2015 now, I guess. And her business gets kind of to the smaller. She doesn't really need an EA. The same time, my father is ailing, and we know he's going to pass. And I said, you know what? Let's just call this good. This was a good chapter, and let's end here. And I'm going to go be with my father in the last 6 weeks of his life. And I went to California, and I spent the last 6 weeks of his life with him. And then I went home and just mourned and grieved and gave myself the space to do whatever I want, eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want, be however I want. And then 3 or 4 months later, I woke up and said, okay, I'm ready to find another CEO. And so I started just rustling the bushes and asking my friends, hey, who do you know? Does somebody need, somebody like me? And one of my friends said, yeah, my CEO is freaking, our company's growing out of control, and he's crazy and kind of in the weeds, and he needs you. So I started becoming his EA. And then she came back to me a few months later and said, Gina, so I'm planning for next year, and I'm going to need an EA. So if you could just plan accordingly. And I said, no, I don't have any more bandwidth. I'm fine with what I am. Good luck. And she's like, oh, no problem. Just find me somebody like you. And I was like, oh, Tiffany. And Tiffany and I put our heads together, and we thought of somebody that we knew. And we said, all right, I think Dorian would like to do this. And you be a good client for her, and I'll coach her. And I said, she's young. She was like 25 years old. She'd only had one job her entire adult life. I was like, we can't F up her life. She still lives at home. She lives this traditional Persian Jewish life. Like, don't mess this up, Tiffany. And she said, okay, I'll be a good client. You be a good coach. And so Dorian came and worked in this same company alongside me, so to say, although we are all working from home. And then Tiffany said, you really should open this as a business. And I was like, I know, but I don't want to do that. I've already been an entrepreneur. No, thank you. I do not want my mortgage getting paid to be contingent upon the next deal that I sign. And then she came back to me a couple months later, and she goes, well, listen, the guys in sales waste a bunch of time doing all this admin work. You really should open this as a business, and I need somebody else. And I said, I don't want to. And she said, get over yourself. And I said, okay. So what is it? May 2016, I went and found Allison. Allison came and worked with us. And then I opened a business. And then Allison, Dorian, and I were the first payroll 7.5 years ago. So
wow.
There you go. And then I worked myself out of a job and found other EAs and other clients and other EAs and other clients. And then COVID came, and we were one of those crazy, crazy rare businesses that COVID actually poured gas on the fire. And now there's about 20 EAs running around the country serving about 25 clients.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. You said I was taking furious notes while I was listening to all of this. And let me see if I can make a narrative of this. So I love the fact that you shared your story about starting a business and then not liking it and going, whatever, I'm out of this. I'm done. This is way too stressful. So I think that that's something that we don't really talk enough about in entrepreneurship circles. I've been pretty open about the fact that my first freelance foray was a horrible disaster, but I was also entering something that I kind of fell into, copywriting. And I didn't have the copywriting skill, and I didn't have the business skills. So I jumped in just, on 2 counts, really not knowing what I was doing and floundering the entire time. And that was my solution. Go get a job. I need the bills to be paid. I need some stability. I need to work on my copywriting and my marketing and developing those skills before I try this again. And working on that in a paid environment and allowing myself to grow and be coached and have mentors really freed up the mental space to realize I don't suck at business. I have a business skills gap. And I'm sure that there are people out there that can teach me this the way I have been taught to be a copywriter. Like I can develop this as a skill. Would you say that something like that? Because I know that you mentioned some resistance when your friend was telling you, you need to start this business. And you were like, nope, not going to do it. Did you ever have kind of a similar realization, or was it really just like your friend dragging you kicking and screaming and you decided it was a good idea eventually? How did that transformation happen?
Well, let's see. Once upon a time, earlier in my career, I worked for IBM.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really great, right? Big Blue. And it was 1999. And I'm in my late 20s and we're hitting the dot-com boom. And all my friends are working for startups. Like that was hip and cool. And they're becoming employee number 2 and number 4 and number 5. And I was just too scared. I was like, and somebody said to me, you know what? You're early in your career. Go get a big name on your resume. And I just trusted her. And I did. And I'll tell you, it was a great, great, great 6 or 7 years. And I partly because it was between those ages of probably like 28 and 35, right? And so I got a lot of really stable corporate knowledge. And then I don't know if it's because it was whatever year in the world it was, maybe 2005, 6 or so, or whether it's because I was in my early 30s and everybody in their early 30s maybe has this thought called, what's this thing called passive income? Oh yeah, that's what I need. Oh, my friends are buying real estate and they're doing this and they're doing these multi-level marketing things. Oh, and they're doing foreign currency. And oh yeah, there's got to be a better life than go to work every day from 9 to 5 and only have 2 weeks of vacation a year. Oh, how horrible. And so I went to all those kind of seminars in a hotel conference room that get you all fired up about your money and how you could have this passive income or that passive income. And on the one hand, some of it was crazy. And on the other hand, some of it sunk in. And I was like, no, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I am going to work for myself. This is some way, somehow, I am going to work for myself. And so I started, then I read a book. One book that I read that was like one of the turning points of the transformation that you're asking about happened to be a Robert Kiyosaki book called Cash Flow Quadrant. And in there was this thing about, if you're going to go for it and try to be a business owner, there is going to be disappointment. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't have to try to mitigate, figure out how this is going to go well. There are going to be parts that are simply not going to go well. Yep. So get going. And I was like, oh, okay. And what I was out. So I then left IBM after 7 years, 2006, to go venture out, to go be an entrepreneur, because that's where I was going to find freedom. Yeah. I was going to be free. I was going to be in control of my own time.
I know.
I'm laughing because I can just picture myself. You're free, Gina. Now you don't have a dime to your name, but boy, were you free.
Oh, I'm laughing with you, not at you, because I've definitely fallen down those rabbit holes before. Yeah. And I thought it was funny that you read a book. I also read a book that led me down this career. Oh, I think I could do that. Cool. I think I'm going to do that. And then we're off to the races.
Yeah. It was, so that was a big leap to leave Big Blue. And I went and became like a business coach. And I don't know, I think I had some other side hustles going. And I had a friend at the time that had opened a restaurant. And I got like a front row view to that life. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to open a Martini lounge. Yeah, nice. That's what I'm going to do. That is sexy. And I knew enough about hospitality and I knew enough about the industry that I was like, I found a business partner. I started writing that business plan. I spent 1.5 years writing that business plan. We were ready to mortgage everything, like my house, his house. And it is 2007. And I don't have a crystal ball that says what's about to happen. So that turned out to be the best thing I never did. And I pulled the plug on the whole thing after 1.5 years of getting fired up about it, talking to bankers, getting ready to go. And then I just said, I don't think I can go into business with this person. Not at this level of risk. Yeah. We're about to have a baby together. And I don't know. I don't know that this guy's going to change diapers with me at 3 a.m. So I said no to that. And so that was a big turning point, was that sometimes, just not doing something is as powerful as doing something. So that might have been what
Yes.
was there when I was like, Tiffany, whatever. I'm not. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of looking at those things for what they might actually be, right? We have a lot of human attachment to things like that. I've invested a year and a half of my time. We've done so much work on this. I would be a fool not to go through with this. But you trusted your intuition, that thing in your gut that said, something doesn't feel right here, and refused to give into that sunk cost fallacy of like, I've spent so much time on this, I might as well throw even more money down this pit and time down this pit, right? And I just wanted to take a moment to call that out, because I feel like there are a lot of people who won't make that call, or won't trust their gut, or will talk themselves out of a gut instinct like that. And I think that that's huge. And this is me just celebrating 2007 you, because a lot of the times I think when we are hitting just wall after wall of struggle and stress, it's not that we're not working hard enough. It's not that we haven't earned the right yet, and that if we just turn it a little bit more, or that stupid diamond meme of the guy that gave up versus the other guy that's just a couple of inches away from breaking through the diamonds, might not be the case. There might be a pocket of gas on the other side of that. Stop jigging. It's okay. It's okay. And I often think that resistance, stress, worries, and fears can be signs that this might not be the right path. And it's okay to say no to this thing. Like, just because I said yes in the past doesn't mean that this is always going to be a yes forever. I love that story.
Yeah. And it's not even, it's easy to say now because I'm not in the middle of it, but it's almost never time wasted.
Yes.
Like, I look back and I'm like, you had some balls, Gina. Like, the people you went to and the bankers you got on board with this thing, and the research that you did, and then all the people that you surveyed, and that you sat down in this old restaurant space that you wanted to buy. Like, who did you think you were? Like, I'm kind of shocked at who I was, but like, kind of like, all right, well, good job. That was, if you had given yourself an internship for 18 months, that was a really good internship.
Yes. I'm glad that you're looking at that like that instead of as a failure, because I think a lot of us judge ourselves too harshly for the things that don't work out the way that we hope. Sometimes it's working out for you.
It's part of the journey. It's part of the journey. I mean, I will say that everything's a part of the journey. The failures, the good times, the bad times, the, oh shit, I think we're going out of business. Yep. Oh wait, but we're not. Oh, it's all part of it. And I always just go, okay, a year from now, what am I going to have to say about this?
That's how I let go of some of the frustrations that I have in business, or even just on the road. Like, how am I going to feel about this a year from now? Oh, I'm not even going to remember this. Okay, cool. Not even worth worrying about. But if I'm going to look back on this a year from now and go, man, I should have done that thing. All right, cool. The answer is we're doing it scared. It's happening. That's a thing that I need.
We're doing it scared. I love that. Yeah.
And I wanted to circle back to something you said almost at the very beginning of looking at this career path and thinking, we could do that. I feel like if I could boil business down and success down to one simple phrase, that would probably be it. Copyright, trademark, Gina Cotner to 2023, right? Could do that. I feel like there's a little bit of willful delusion that needs to happen in business of like, even if you don't have the skill set, or you're not entirely certain that you could succeed, but you just go, oh, you know what? Smart. And I've achieved a lot of things, and I've got some good friends, and I've got some resources. I can figure this out. I could do that. And that's how great things happen in the world, that you just start by believing in yourself and giving yourself permission to go do that thing imperfectly in all its glory. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're making a bet, and you're taking a gamble, and what you're betting on is you.
Yes.
That's, it's so, it is, you got it. I love your phrase a little, you gotta be a little bit delusional. I have a friend that is retiring and is going to start a whole second career, and he's brilliant. I mean, brilliant about money and brilliant about this, and has so much to offer. But I'm like, all right, well, we'll see if he's willing to gamble on himself.
Yeah.
Like, you're the black chip on the table, and you're going to bet on you and deal with you. So if you can deal with you, okay, probably,
Mm-hmm.
would turn out. And if not, then, you'll pivot and you'll go 10 degrees to the north. I mean, that's the thing about just diving in and being a little bit crazy. You just learn so much faster than like, oh, let me get my website to look perfect. And
Yeah.
then let me get my tagline right. And then
Mm-hmm.
let me get this sorted out. No, just fucking start swimming.
I
And
feel
and
you're
once you get
calling
in
out young
there,
Angie.
yeah, then
Keep
once
going.
you get in there, then you'll have something to say.
Yes, absolutely. I wasted so much time trying to get that first website perfect because you need a website to have a business. People are going to be checking you out online, right? And I spent a year and a half roughly on that thing, just trying to get the messaging right, trying to get the design right, and building it myself. You would think in a year and a half of working on this thing, I would have cobbled together the money to have somebody help me with this. But no, I had this story in my head about I can't afford the help. I need to do all this myself. So talk about a time suck and a time waste and just like being too in my head. By the time I finally get this thing done where I'm like, enough, I am not working on this thing anymore. I need to go out and get business. And I'm having the conversations. I realized I hated my website to the point that I would not share it with anybody. And I still got business. I'm sure some of them Googled me and found my terrible website and went, "Oh, you poor thing." But she's cool. We'll work with her. It's fine. She's got a website. At least she's trying. Poor baby, right? They hired me anyway, despite the horrible website, and it all worked out. I just realized that I spent so much time focused on the wrong things and not enough believing in myself. And one of those things you mentioned, hindsight, that I realized with hindsight of focusing on that website was I was trying to figure out who I was for and what problems I solved without actually going out and talking to people and solving problems.
Right.
And
Right.
Angie's not a mind reader, so she's trying to reach forward into the future and predict certainty somehow instead of just being a little bit delusional, a little bit goofy, and having that faith that I'm going to figure it out. And if I go out and start having conversations, the way will become clear. Just start moving.
Yeah. The marketplace will train you. And if you're an
Yes.
entrepreneur and you think you're going to train them, well, you are delusional because they will tell what the marketplace now wants from my company is different than 7 years ago and different than 4 years ago and different than 3 years from today. So
Mm-hmm.
I got to keep getting trained and educated by the marketplace and the buyers that are out there. And I'll be a fool every now and then. I'll be like, oh God, what's that CRM you use? Oh shit, I've never heard of that.
Yep.
Oh gosh, now I look like a fool. Okay, well, next time I won't look like a fool because I just learned that new thing yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So just like that resilience to just swim. I always tell people just wade into the thing up to your waist. Then you have something to say about your groovy, cool idea, but people are so afraid. And if you are too afraid, then okay, maybe entrepreneurial isn't for you. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. No shame in that.
You never get to a point in your life where you've graduated and the problems don't exist anymore. Like we've crossed the finish line into happy lands and never will I suffer again. First of all, let's go back to that. I think it's a Buddhist quote that's like, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Don't choose to
Yes.
suffer if you don't have to. Rage on it, get it out of your system, cry on it, watch 24 hours of sad movies and cry your face off. There is no judgment. Feel the emotions. I'm not going to tell you not to feel. Get it out of your system and move forward. Don't stay there. Feel the feelings, but don't stay there. That was a side rant that I didn't anticipate coming, but back to the story.
It's
So
spot
you,
on though. It's all part of it because that is what people are like, oh, what do you have to say? It's
Mhm.
like, just keep swimming. And that is what stops people is like, oh, but this thing happened. I'm like, and when did it happen? Last
Mhm.
week.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's now a different week. It's so over.
And if
Yeah.
you fall back down into the pit this week because that thing happened last week, okay, cool. Reset that timer again. I get to fall down in the pit and then I got to climb out and get myself out of here. I can't stay here. Don't set up camp in the hole. Right?
That's right.
And there was something super, I thought, awesome that you said a while back that in case anybody missed it or didn't quite catch, you had somebody tell you, this is valuable. I think you're the person. Please help me with this. And I think that there are a lot of us that will You had the internal monologue going on about, I can't do this because my business is a failure. And that a lot of us have something similar. There are people that are coming to you, but you've already dismissed that because of what you believe your capabilities are, right? You're not delusional enough to believe that you could do it. But there are people out there every day in all kinds of places that are telling you, I adore you. I think you're awesome. Could you help me with this? And that could be your opportunity, right? So if you're getting tempted to sit down and think that I need to be the next Steve Jobs, I need to be the next Oprah, I need to be a world changer, not necessarily. There might be people out there already asking for your help, and there might already be a business opportunity for you if you're open to it.
True, true, true. I know people always ask me about scaling and do you want to scale and how you can scale? And we have to some degree, but I'm like, I'll just tell you, coming along with 25 clients about at a time is pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. It pays everybody who needs to get paid. It pays them a good salary. It gives us all a good lifestyle. I work about 10 hours a week. I'm going to go to a middle of the week, middle of the day baseball game here in a couple hours.
Love it.
Okay. We're all kind of like, we've got the life that we want. So sometimes we have a retreat, me and my managers, and I'm always like, I feel like just because we can doesn't mean we have to. Yes, we could scale. We could double the size of the company. Do we want to? Are we happy right here? Could we enjoy being right here for a hot minute?
Yeah, my groan was like, put that on a mug. Just because we can, does that mean that we should? No, not necessarily. And I'm so glad that you brought that up too, because that was, okay, so here's a little bit of a shameless self-promo. I've been working on a book for 5 years. It's finally coming out in a couple months. We're recording this at the end of August. It's going to come out in December of 2023. And I just got back the blurbs from the people that volunteered to read the book to provide blurbs. And one of the things that stuck out to me that one person said was in a similar vein. She said, for everybody that thinks of entrepreneurship as I have to build my garage side hustle into a multi-million-dollar empire, you're giving people permission to stay small without having to play small. And I was like, oh, that's good. You should be a writer. She is. I love that you said that. Do we want to grow? I like my lifestyle as it is. The company's doing really well. We're all living great lives. Permission to build the business that works for you. You don't have to be an empire builder. You don't have to be an Elon Musk. Rant on that guy for another day. I'm not the biggest fan because I think he treats people like shit. And I think people are the foundation of business. But we're not going to rant on that. I don't know where I was going with that thought, honestly.
Yeah. No, well, it's the thing about the permission to stay small if you want. And I was, again, God, that's so funny. I read business books when I was in my early 30s, and now, 20 years later, I shouldn't be quoting them anymore. But it does remind me of the book called The Millionaire Next Door, which was popular 25 years ago. But, the point was, you could have a company where you provide two key parts to a piece of equipment. Mm-hmm. And that's your jam. That's all your company really does. And you're one of two providers in the United States that provides those two key parts to that piece of machinery. Mm-hmm. Not particularly sexy, but man, could have a great life. Yes. And I just remember reading stories of people who literally they weren't ostentatious. They didn't, I'm never going to drive a really, really fancy car. I'm never going to really have fancy handbags. I'm just kind of not my jam. Mm-hmm. I'd just rather be able to have something where I can go to a baseball game in the middle of the day, or go play pickleball, or go see my mom whenever I want, or just the freedom, and sometimes how much freedom will get taken away if we, I don't know, just do the hard hustle. Now, if my managers, I've told them, you guys want to scale this thing? Okay, I'll be the wind beneath your wings. Mm-hmm. And they're up my nose about writing a book too. They're like, well, we're writing a book. And I was like, well, I don't think know. It's there's so a million books out there. And they're like, no, we're just writing a book. We're not asking you. We're just telling you we're going to write Athena's book on delegation. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we'll let you know when we're ready for you to read it. I was like, okay, that'll be good. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I totally think writing a book is worth it. And I mean, it was mostly fear and head trash that kept me working on mine for so long, because it was the same thing. There's so many books out there. Who am I to say all of this? But now that it's done and I can see that I have a different perspective on how I think business should work. And it's not going to resonate with everybody, but I share a similar stance with you of no, I want a good enough business. I want to not have to worry about any of the bills. I told my coach once when I was having a little bit of a meltdown one day, and I said, I'm just frustrated because I don't feel like this is growing as much as I want it to. And I do want $1 million business, but not because I feel like I need it, because I just want to see if I can do it. Coming from my blue collar background, I just want to see if I can do it. Will I stay there? I don't know, but we'll see. So this thing is not growing fast enough for me. And I'm so frustrated and I'm so stressed. And he goes, okay, I hear you. So tell me why. What is the inspiration? What will having $1 million business allow you to achieve? And guys, if you're not asking yourself these questions, I highly recommend that you do it. Know why you're doing what you're doing, because you will find out some astonishing things. So Angie, why are you doing this? And I said, well, I don't want to have to worry about the bills. I want to be able to pick up the check at the spendiest restaurant in town because we're all having a great time and nobody needs the stress of worrying about who's going to pay. I want to have incredible experiences with people that I adore all over the world. I want to spoil my friends and family rotten. I want to be able to take them on all expenses paid vacations. I want to go to cool places. I travel with my cats. That's not really a secret. I just got a new cat. His name is Oliver. And so I just got a really cool rolling cat carrier that stacks. There's 2 cages and it converts into a backpack, but it also has wheels and a handle thing. Anyway, I digress. I want to be able to travel and experience cool things, take my cats with me, not have to worry about the bills. And he goes, okay, I hear you. That sounds like some really awesome goals. So remind me where you are right now. And I was like, Southern California. And he goes, and what were you just doing last week? And I was like, I was with my 2 best friends at Disneyland's. And he was like, so let me check my notes here. So you were having an adventure with people that you love, picking up the check, eating great food. Remind me again, like what's the problem here? And I was like, all right, I'm already in a lot of ways living the life that is important to me. It's just that I haven't hit the financial target. And somehow I'm so focused on that financial target that I've completely dismissed the fact that I've already built a life that I love living. Brains are dumb. That's what I like to say about that.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. And I too am after the $1 million mark. And I would have told you last fall that this year would be the year. I would have sworn. We grew like mad in the last 2 years. Rapid growth. And I was like, yep, 2023, we're hitting $1 million. And then we nosedived at the beginning of this year. And when we have pulled back up, and we're good now, but we're not going to like hit $1 million. But I have wanted to be on that list, let's just say, of women-owned businesses that have hit $1 million, just so that it continues to lengthen the list, really, and the breadth and the depth of that doorway, right? Like just keep getting that door open and door open and the door open, and that more women know other women who are like, oh, well, she's just a normal human being. She did it. I can do it if they want to.
Yes.
But it is,
Yeah. Isn't it weird how often we get this picture in our heads of what success is, and then we somehow never look like that?
Yep.
That's not me. Success is those people over there that look like that. So like, what if you could, if you're dealing with some fears around either growing your business or starting your first business, what if you could be the one that shows other people, oh my gosh, there's somebody that looks like me doing what I want to do. And you, just by doing your thing, give other people permission to do something similar. And we all grow together because of it. Because I guarantee you, if they see you out there doing your thing, they see you as their hero and their inspiration. That's not a competition. Like, I'm entering business to take Gina down. I'm entering business because Gina showed me, holy crap, I can do that thing. I really think I can. And if you're smart, you're going to try and get Gina as your mentor too.
Yeah. I think that is a big part of my future too. And what does inspire me is like, okay, well now could I have 5 other women get to where I'm at? Okay. Meanwhile, I'll keep growing. And then can I get another 5 women to get to get there, or to get halfway there and then decide what they want. But there's just kind of a getting over that initial hurdle until you do have enough confidence to be like, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll go running back to my business coach if I'm in a pain point, or I'll go running to some mentors if I'm in a pain point. But I'm now to the point where I'm like, okay, well, all right, what else you got? All right, I'm going to fire that client. Okay, that was really painful. Okay, now what? I'm not, the
like
things that I
that.
would have lost sleep about 5 years ago, obviously I don't lose sleep about it as much anymore, which is good.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Now what? What else you got? I can take it. I am a big fan of building the resilience muscle instead of running away from failure and pretending like it's never going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. It's an event. It's not your identity. And that actually ties into that's the perfect segue, because I know that we kind of talked about the beginning of your business, and we talked about where you're at now on track to hit that $1 million goal. Maybe not this year, but soon in the future with the way things are going. And that tends to be the picture of the story that most people get in businesses. Like, I started this business and here's where we are, and they're left to fill in the gaps, which usually looks something like straight upward arrow. No, I know from back in the questionnaire that it went a little all over the place. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what those growing pains were and what that journey was like?
So probably the big, I said, like, this year we had a downturn. And we hadn't had one since 2018. And again, hindsight, right? I'm like, glad I had that in 2018, even though in 2018 I was like crying about it. But now when it happens again in 2023, I'm like, oh, okay, we've dug ourselves out of that ditch before. Well, I know how to do that. And let's see, we were founded in 2016, so we grew pretty steady. We're at this time of year, like this exact time of year, end of August 2018. One of my team members, who's now one of the key managers, she went and got married and had honeymoon, and she had a couple clients. And she was also not on paper, but like my business partner. She was like, who was growing this with me? Yeah. And she went away for a couple weeks. Well, it was Dorian, the very first person I ever brought on board with me. And she went away for a couple weeks. And in that couple weeks time, for whatever reason, we lost like 3 clients.
Oh.
And like 2 of them were hers, like the people she actually worked for. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to come back from getting married and her honeymoon. And I'm going to be like, Dorian, these people are leaving.
Oh no.
Wow. So I was upset for her, upset for us, but that was also a lot of money at the time for us. And I got pretty freaked out. And I think because I had done a lot of the initial networking marketing, which I still don't love. I know how to do it. I can do it. I can go into that gear, but all the while just being like, okay, are we over that part yet? I think, oh, thank God, we're over that part, aren't we? And then the plane started to dive, and I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I went back to my business coach and I said, I don't know what to do. And I have a bit of a superstition. Maybe it's valid. It's certainly valid. I don't know if it's proven, but I mentally, I think after Labor Day, everybody comes back to their business brain. Even if, like, I don't have kids, but even though I don't have kids, I still have the brain pattern called, okay, it's after Labor Day. It's time to like roll up your sleeves and go to school. And August is like, get in all your fun and go to camp and finish the vacation. So I said to myself back in 2018, things will pick up after Labor Day. And then they didn't. So then like end of September, I think is probably when I went to my coach and I just said, I don't know what to do. And he said, well, what's your conversion rate? I was like, my what? He's like, what's your conversion rate? From how many conversations do you have? How much networking do you have to do to produce a prospect? How many prospects do you have to produce, somebody who's partway through your pipeline, your sales process? How many of those do you have to result in a signed contract? And I was like, I don't know. He said, well, you use Pipedrive, or, I use Pipedrive, but he's like, go into your software. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just was like, I was just like tech resistant and just resistant to the whole thing. And after a couple calls, he's like, okay, listen, I don't care if you pull out a pad of paper and freaking Post-it notes and you write down I contacted 10 people this week. That resulted in one person wanting to talk further with me. That resulted in this. This resulted in that. He goes, go track your data. I don't care how you do it. So I tracked my data for about 3 months. And I think I did it on a good old Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, now here we are at the end of 2018. What do you want to do next quarter? And I said, well, I want to sign 8 clients. And he said, all right, now how many people are you going to have to talk to? Now, at that point, I had taken 3 months worth of data. So I was like, all right, then I've got to have whatever. I don't know what the numbers are, but I got to have, this many people in prospect conversations. I got to have this many people say they're interested. And I've got to personally go contact X amount of people. Whatever my conversion rate was at that time, the math worked out to, I needed to contact 96 people in the quarter to logically produce 8 new clients. And I broke that out, divided that by 13 weeks in a quarter. And I don't know what it came out to, whatever that comes out to. I needed to contact something like 8 or 9 people a week. And I was like, all right, well, that's not insurmountable.
Yeah.
That's palatable. I can find 8 people on LinkedIn and Facebook and friends of friends and friends of family. And I don't know, just everybody. So I had what's called a referral letter, which just tells people what we're set up to do, who we're set up to serve, and what happens if you refer people to me. And that was a huge tool that I used to get the business off the ground and build what we now call a referral engine, because pretty much the referrals now just come and come and come and come. So I sent my referral letter out to like 8 people a week, followed up, and 8 people a week, and followed up and followed up. And about 6 weeks later, the whole thing just popped.
Love it.
And people started coming, other people started coming, and I stopped having to do that. You should never really, really stop. And then we didn't market again for 5 years. And then this year, the markets, what's happened in the last 5 years is tons of our clients are financial advisors. I'd say about half of our clients are financial advisors. And that's because of this reason and another reason and other serendipitous and fortunate things that happened along the way. But the stock market at the beginning of this year was, now we're a little too much tied to the stock market, because when the stock market does crazy things, then all the prospective people that are financial advisors get scared. And, we were in that whole debt ceiling conversation earlier this year, and that just had everybody frozen. Inflation went up, everybody was frozen. And all of a sudden our pipeline dried up. So me and my managers went back and basically did what I had done 5 years ago, called, all right, how many people are you reaching out to this week? How many people are you reaching out to this week? How many people are you reaching out to this week? And we all made promises and held each other to account, and did that for about 2 months. And then the whole thing just popped, and now we're back to where we were. So
yes. Oh, I love that. And I mean, okay, so for everybody listening, if you haven't had your first big major failure, or you're just coming out of it and you're like, I'm not sure if this is for you, this is going to happen. But I want you to listen and just dissect with me for a second the brilliance with which Gina and her team just kind of attacked this problem, right? One, you didn't tell yourself that you had to figure this out alone. And this is a founder problem that I have seen happen a lot with the folks that I coach, with the people that I've consulted with, is that they think because I'm the founder, because I am the person steering this ship, that I have got to go into a dark room and plan out the master plan and save us all. No, not necessarily. Gina went, okay, I'm in a rough spot. Everything is terrible and overwhelming, and I'm going to talk to my business coach. Okay, cool. Business coach says things I don't want to do. I'm just going to resist, but I'm going to keep going to the business coach until he says, no, do this thing. You do the thing that's uncomfortable, you get the learning and the insight, and start to, and this is the second piece that I think is brilliant, chunk it down into manageable steps versus going, oh my gosh, I have I'm just making up numbers. I have a 250,000 shortfall and I have no idea how I'm going to make that up. And I've got payroll to make and I'm panicking. Okay, well, don't focus on the 250,000, focus on the 8 or 9 people per week that you have to contact. That's a much more solvable problem. And exactly like you said, taking consistent action over time. 6 weeks later, it started to pop off. That revenue went crazy. And then the revenue, The fact that you didn't have to advertise for 5 years is just awesome to me. I think that's really incredible. And you built something special. And then there's a dip at the beginning of the year, right? We've solved this problem. We've climbed out of the hole. We're on an upward trajectory. We know who we're for. We have attracted a whole bunch of financial advisors. And then the stock market takes a tank. You've by now built up enough resilience to not go, I fucked up. I did something wrong. This shouldn't be happening at this stage of the business. And just went, okay, I'm looking at everything that's happening and I'm realizing there's a pattern here. We are working with a lot of people in this industry. This industry is incredibly volatile. What do we do to solve for this problem? What do we do to solve for the revenue problem? Who can I get helping me out? Like all of that, I think is such brilliance. And there's a lot of weird resistance, especially in people that see themselves as founders and leaders, to reaching out to the people in your corner, taking slow action over time, and just looking at the problems to see what you could change or do differently. But you can do that. You can do anything.
Yep. That's right.
Oh, I feel like I could rant about this with you all day long. Instead, I'm going to say, tell us more about your services, where I know that people are going to want to work with you after this. So tell us more, all the things.
Okay. Well, yeah. So you can find us at athenaexecutiveservices.com, and that'll tell you all kinds of stuff about our company. And there'll be various, almost on every page out there, it says, do you want to explore more about having a VA? And you click on that. And it's going to connect you with Jennifer Tracy. Jennifer Tracy is our business development manager and our client care manager. And it'll get you on her calendar. And she's just a great person to just explore with. You know, we are a unique niche within the VA industry. So we're not afraid to be like, hey, cool thing you got going there. We're not a good fit, and point you in the right direction. She's a great resource too for because more and more people now have learned a lot about the industry, right? This isn't foreign now. People have got, oh yeah, I've had a VA, it didn't work out, or I did and they were kind of good, but then they went and they did this thing, or my sister keeps telling me I should have a VA. It's just not foreign anymore. So now a lot of people are like, well, where do I go? Should I get one from the Philippines? What would be the pros and cons of that? Why can't I just find like a solopreneur freelancer? Where do I do that? So she's happy to answer those kind of questions. And sometimes when I speak, I'll just speak about just the 411 on the whole industry, but you guys anybody can just go get on her calendar and pick her brain about that. And she'll tell you. And if you're interested in what we actually do, which is a real high caliber, part-time executive assistant, well, that's what we do.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to make sure that they have clickable links in the show notes so that they can go check this out. Thank you again so much for sharing your journey, for sharing your wisdom with us. I think everybody's going to love this one.
Thank you.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of you can do it. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.